How do podcast disclaimers prevent lawsuits? Have you ever wondered how podcast disclaimers can protect creators from legal trouble? Let's break it down in a way that makes sense. Podcast disclaimers are essential tools that help define what a podcast is and what it is not. They set clear expectations for listeners about the content they are consuming. At their core, disclaimers clarify that the podcast is meant for informational or entertainment purposes only. This is important because it helps listeners understand that they should not rely on the podcast as a substitute for professional advice. For example, if a podcast discusses health or financial topics, a disclaimer can remind listeners to consult professionals for guidance. This distinction can significantly reduce the risk of lawsuits related to negligence or misinformation. Disclaimers typically include specific language that serves to protect the podcast creator. They may state that the podcast is provided as is, meaning there are no guarantees about the accuracy or completeness of the information shared. This helps limit liability, as it makes it clear that the creator is not responsible for any damages or losses that may arise from using the podcast content. Another key aspect is that disclaimers often clarify that the opinions expressed in the podcast are those of the host or guests. This is crucial because it distances the podcast creator from statements made by others, which can help prevent defamation lawsuits. By making it clear that these are opinions and not factual claims, the podcast creator can better protect themselves legally. Additionally, disclaimers can note that the podcast does not endorse any third-party products or services mentioned during episodes. This further limits liability and helps manage risks associated with promoting external content. To maximize effectiveness, podcast disclaimers should be placed in multiple locations. It is a good idea to verbally state the disclaimer at the beginning of each episode. Including it in written form in show notes and on the podcast website is also beneficial. Furthermore, having disclaimers in guest releases forms can clarify ownership and responsibility for the content provided by guests. For podcasters looking to monetize their shows, having updated and comprehensive disclaimers is vital. This not only helps manage legal risks but also supports compliance with legal requirements, such as Federal Trade Commission disclosures when endorsements or sponsorships are involved. In summary, podcast disclaimers play a significant role in preventing lawsuits by setting clear boundaries around the content shared. They limit the host's liability, protect against defamation claims, and enhance transparency with the audience. By understanding and implementing these disclaimers, podcasters can create a safer environment for themselves and their listeners.